This you?
No, what's poppin'? Welcome, Nicky and Moose. I'm Nicky. That's Moose. What's up, Moose?
What up, y'all?
I swear, this is like after show vibes. Welcome to the live show. How's everybody doing? How's everybody feeling? First and foremost, of course, new episode dropped today. All right. So that's episode 175. We talked about free versus paid content, the full guide to that. So go check that out. The audio is today, tomorrow, Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. That is the video version. Do us a favor, like and subscribe to the channel, especially like it right now so the algorithm can be like, oh, Nicky and Moose is on. So we got to watch it. So if you're watching this replay, please hit this live, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Moose, how are we feeling?
Man, feeling pretty good. Busy as all get out today, but definitely very good. I'm over here taking my headphones like, yo, did I just hear a cry coming from the bedroom? I think I told you guys that, the wife is on the road. So last week I said it, single dad. This time I am single dad for real.
Single dad.
Yeah, single dad for real. With some help though, Mom Dukes came through. I was like, Ma, you it takes a village, right? Like, so you gonna hold me down, right? Like, you're not gonna leave me alone here, having to do this. So now, fortunately, she came through, and so yeah, man. Today was day one, so a success. Anytime I put her down and she goes to sleep, pretty much without having or needing some additional, like comforting. Oh, that's a success. Put it down, finish her bottle. She turned over. I said, "Oh, let's go." Yeah, so it's been a good day.
Good. Come on.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Anything that you're nervous about that normally happens on a regular basis, and you don't know if you're fully ready to take care of it by yourself. Nothing out of the ordinary, but just like, I know she's eventually going to do this, and I'm not 100% ready.
Yeah. I mean, nothing really. Like, for the most part, I'm pretty up on her routine all throughout. I'm very involved, but she is surprisingly, and I know they say usually like girls are daddy's girls. Maybe she will, I'm sure at some point turn to be that, but she really is a mama's baby. Like, she loves her mom. Yeah. So I'm just concerned about her, like, mom? And just like really make sense of the fact that mom is not around, and she just goes, ham and potatoes a little bit. So we avoided it today. We're like mindful around the FaceTime, like, hey, you can FaceTime, but if it gets a little janky, please just hang up. Don't even let her come to that realization. So that's my only thing. So, she comes back Thursday morning, so it's not like super far out, but that's the only thing. I guess this is fitting for the live tonight. We talking about balancing family and personal and, work and all that. So it's fitting. So yeah. That's the only thing. So I'll keep y'all posted, man. I'll let you know on next week's episode how we got through the week with hopefully without any hiccups. So far, so good though.
Yay. And shout out to moms for helping out. But start us off.
Yeah, I mean, give us an update on your end real quick before we jump into it, man. You know what I'm saying? You kind of made this about me for the last 4 minutes. I'm sure the people want to know, so what's up? What's going on in Nicky land?
I'm just in Division Pro. That's all I've been doing. That's all I've been doing. I got my Chat GPT. Yeah, no. It's super helped out with my productivity. Like, I have my whole upstairs set up, but the cool thing about it is, like, when you walk away, whatever you left at that spot, it stays there. So, like, if I have a certain video, let's say I have Max downstairs, so it stays there. So I walk, like, my whole house is kind of like set up to there's always something based off the Vision Pro. So I have it here. I go downstairs. There's a game or there's a video or something. There's something by the, I have like a little note situation by the refrigerator just in case I need to do Instacart real quick. So it's like all, let's say, smart home out somewhat with the Vision Pro. So it's really dope.
Yeah. That's what's up. Yeah, I saw a video of that. I saw a video. It was like a collage of videos of people using the Vision Pro, and they were like, "This video here is probably better than what Anna. I don't know why I saw the word Anna somewhere, and I said Anna, but this, I don't know, random. Forgive me, but that's they said that this is better than Apple's ads of what they did with the Vision Pro. So I was like, yo, that's kind of pretty dope. And they did the walkthrough. Somebody threw him a ball like from the room, and then he caught it with the Vision Pro on. I was like, yo, that's pretty dope. Have you went outside with it yet? Have you?
Absolutely not. I'm not doing.
Have you took it into the streets?
No, I'm not doing that. I'm not. First off, I don't even go outside like that. Yeah, I don't even go outside like that.
The New Yorkers in the train, bro. I seen that one video of somebody on the train just like working with the Vision Pros on. I said, man, that's different. That is different for sure.
First off, I saw a Tesla just stop driving on a self-driving situation, and it caused like a 8-car pileup. So not only are you on your this person didn't have the Vision Pro, they just was doing the self-driving, right? Not only are you doing self-driving, but then you're all distracted with Vision Pro, and then major I'm not.
Yo, I'm surprised there aren't any laws that are coming out to say, like if I can't drive with my cell phone, if I can't text and drive or talk on the phone and drive, I can Vision Pro and drive. Like,
I don't think it. So the person who was driving, well, there was 2 videos. There was one with the Tesla truck and the Vision Pro, and that all happening, right? And then there was another person who was just driving with the Vision Pro, but then showed that he got pulled over by cops.
Okay, got it. All right, so the same rules do apply.
Yeah. I think it's like cute, but they're like, nah. That's not what we're doing here. And plus, I don't know how they do it. It's not super, super clear. Like, it's clear enough, but it's not like, oh my God, I feel like this is the same. It's not. You can clearly know it's not the same.
Wow, that's interesting.
It's like it's a little grainy. That's what I'll say. It's a little grainy.
Yeah, I did finally see what you meant about the FaceTime. Like, I saw how people look on the FaceTime. I'm like, ooh, that does look a little funky. So very interesting.
Yeah. I was on Zoom today.
Oh,
I was on it for a little bit, but then the volume went down on me. Like, I couldn't hear nobody. So I was like, I don't have patience for this. So like the first bit of it, I was on the Zoom call, and they were like, yo, I can't get used to it. So I was like, I'm sorry. Because I had it up. I was doing multiple things. And they had you in an office type vibe. Shout out to Zoom. Zoom knew what they were doing. Because I was like, can you change this? But yeah.
That's what's up. I love it. Well, hey, let's get into it. Shout out to Danny. Danny, thanks for the positive vibe, sending them right back at you. Shout out to Rogers Entertainment in the chat and in the comment who said, I'm thinking about doing the anime cartoon short of your podcast. That's pretty dope.
That'd be dope.
That sounds pretty cool. That would be really cool. We would appreciate that big time. Shout out to y'all for plugging in. Make sure you share this with a couple people, man. I think we're going to be talking about a topic tonight that is super relevant to everyone. Whether you are working a 9-to-5, building a business, or you are in side hustle mode, trying to do it all and figure it out as you go, whatever it is, I think this conversation is going to be very relevant to you. Over the last several weeks, probably even months, quite honestly, we've been going super heavy on content, branding, community, business development, all of these different topics to really get you set up for the new year. And we hope that you have been building some momentum and gaining a tremendous amount of value from all that we've discussed. But tonight, and surprisingly, this topic idea did not come from me. Typically, the more personal development or personal stuff usually comes from me. But this time it actually came from Nix. Nix was like, hey, we should talk about maintaining balance between family and career and just overall work-life balance. I said, I'll tell you what, we haven't talked about that in a while. And so absolutely, let's have that discussion. So yeah, Nick, start us off, man. What sparked the inspiration to maybe touch on this topic, and what does that look like for you right now in this season? I mean, everyone has their different definition of there is no balance, or it's seasonal, or it's harmony. So yeah, give us an update on what sparked the topic, and how does that look like for you right now?
Well, actually, the topic came more of me asking questions for you, because you're married, you have a kid, right? You have businesses left and right. And so I think in the season of, we're still in the first quarter, and really still in that mode of trying to figure it out. We're not in that month yet of like, okay, this is just bad. Forget it. We just, whatever it is, whatever it is. We're still big on figuring out the system, things like that. And even me thinking forward with how I have to transition into because right now I always say I'm single but taken, right? Because
singly taken.
Yes, and I have a single but taken meal and everything. So, but it is more because long distance relationship, you still am able to concentrate maybe solely on one or two things, and it's not necessarily a huge work-life balance. There's pockets of it as long as you create communication and seeing each other and things like that. But there's not necessarily that stress. Not I would say stress. Stress is not the word, but prioritizing the, hey, don't forget about me. Hello, you have a whole family. Let's go, right? So I kind of wanted to get your take on the work-life balance going into this year, as well as things you've avoided that maybe you didn't need to avoid. Like you thought it was supposed to be this way, and then you realize, oh wait, no, I don't. Maybe I overthought that. I mean, like, okay, it's not a big deal. All right, we can still do this. My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely one of them, and this is probably a major one, but I remember when, my wife first got pregnant, the dialogue that, at least just much of the conversation I was having with everyone, it gave me the sense that my life was about to be over. Like, bro, your career is about to go to trash. You like, that's just the sense that I got. I'm like, either I got some really bad friends who are not really believing in my ability to balance, or this is really something serious that I have no clue what I'm getting myself into. I'm not sure, but that was definitely the feedback that I felt that I was receiving. And I was like, y'all, I feel that I'm very prepared for this season though. And I have an incredible wife. I think we're on the same page. We have backup help if we need to. Mom and aunt are only 20 minutes away for the most part, without traffic. Hello, we live in New York, so I already know what's up.
Talk about that.
You know what I'm saying? So, without traffic, 20 minutes. So that was something that made me got me a little concerned. But as we navigated, the first several months, now 11 months into it, in a couple of days officially, I'm like, it really isn't that bad. To your point, if you have communication, and if you are productive during the time that you do have, what you can't is still use the time as if you were single. Because when you were single, and I made a post about this last year on New Year's, and I said, hey, my New Year's resolution is to go into the bathroom without my phone. Because it's like, when you're single, you go to the bathroom, you're on your phone, you could really mess around and do a whole bunch of stuff. Or maybe if you have grown kids too, I don't know, but I don't have any grown kids yet. But you could really get away with a lot of unproductive time and still do what you need to do. Like, seriously, it might take you longer. You might not be maybe at the level that you could be your absolute best, but you could mess around quite a bit and still be okay. Once you get a little one in your life, you got to be sharp. That's been the key to to what I've been doing. It's like, I know something I really enjoy is breakfast time. So like for me to be able to make breakfast, feed her, and we spend that little 30 minutes of just her eating after she wakes up, that really makes my day and it energizes me in a major way so I can go out and now I'm like, okay, cool. I do want to sacrifice or I want to deal with the challenges that I have coming up. No one wants to deal with challenges, but definitely just that moment sets me up for the day. And then there are some pockets for nap time and she's usually down by 7:30. Right. So if I'm using my time productively, I'm okay. It's not causing a major life hack, but you just don't have the flexibility of your own solo time like you did before, where it's like, yo, all right, I'm about to just run out. And where are you going? I don't know. I'm just gonna go do some stuff. It's like, that part is what I don't have. But from an overall standpoint, that's what it's been for me, Nix.
And for those who may be listening, however you deal with work-life balance, put it in the chat. Do you struggle with that? Are you good on that whole nine? Just put your take on it. Is there any systems or routines that you said the breakfast thing, so that was kind of one of those things, but is there a routine that you do to be able to balance everything that you have?
Yeah. The two pieces that I've locked in from like a system standpoint is my nutrition. So I really make it a habit to get good quality food in my body. I'm just expected to do so much more. And I realized, I think around month 5, when the kids started to get real active meaning she's not just going to sit wherever you place her. She's going to roll around, crawl, pull stuff, fall, like that kind of stuff. I was like, oh, shoot, I can't wake up and not have energy and expect it to be okay. Mm-hmm. Not personally for myself, not for the family, and most definitely not for work. One of the things I really got to give you credit for until this day, I often think about it. If you remember maybe about 2.5 or 3 years ago, you went on this streak of, hey, and you were asking people this question. You were saying, hey, we all talk about personal growth or professional growth or business development, but what do you do for mental growth, like your actual brain? That's at least how I interpret it.
Yeah.
And that was the first time that I sat there and said, yo, hold up. Not for nothing, I'm no longer involved in a career that requires physical labor. There was a time in my life where when I worked on my father's business or the bread route, that was physical labor. We had to drive trucks, we had to carry crates, we had to drop off bread, pick up boxes. That was physical labor. When I left that and I got into hospitality, in a lot of ways, that was very physical labor, right? Tables, chairs, food, everything, very physical labor. So I prayed to be in a position where I no longer have to work with my body, but instead with my brain. And so I never made the connection that because I work so much with my brain, I have to think, I have to problem solve, I have to communicate, I have to have patience, right? And so when you don't sleep well, when you don't eat well, you get agitated. And when you're agitated, what are you not going to do well? Perform well mentally, right? You're not going to have patience for people. You're not going to think really rationally or think through some of what's going on. So that's when I took that question of yours and I said, yo, what am I doing proactively to make sure that I'm putting my brain, literally my brain, in the best position to perform at optimal levels? And that's when I started being reminded, like, oh, yeah, I got to pick up multivitamins and magnesium drops, and I have to get good quality nutrition in me. So it sounds super like simple and cliche to some extent, but that's why I started to say that success is boring, because it's in those simple everyday details that when you take serious, it starts to turn around how you perform. So now I'm waking up and I don't have that brain fog. Like, oh man, it's taking me 3 hours to get going. It's like, no, I wake up, I have my morning routine where I'm taking my magnesium drops. I got certain things that I'm drinking or whatever. I'm getting out the door within an hour to get some workout in, at least 4, sometimes 5 times a week, depending on how things are going. And that puts me in a really good place to come back and then do the rest of what I'm talking about, right? Like, whether it's doing the family thing and then running off into work mode, throughout the day, taking a break for lunch. So it's really been the most basic, simple stuff. Eat breakfast, eat lunch, get some sleep. And, like I know it sounds mad elementary, but that's really been the biggest system that I've used. Because in case you guys haven't noticed, after several years on this podcast, I'm a very simple guy in the sense that I'm not looking for anything exotic in life. Like I'm not impressed by, it doesn't take a lot to impress me, I should say, right? Like I'm actually very simple. It's funny because we were driving today from my mom's house and we were talking in the car and I was telling her, and we were just comparing perspectives of how she looks at her life now that she doesn't have to work as much. And what are the things that bother her versus how I look at those same exact things and what my perspective is on them. And I helped her to see like, in a lot of ways, my life is a lot more difficult, challenging, busier than you think. But still, nonetheless, here's why I would appear to be much happier, right, than, someone who maybe doesn't have as much challenges or has, more to enjoy, whatever the case may be. And it was just the fact like, it doesn't take a lot to impress me or make me happy. And for the moments that I do have to enjoy outside of work, I really seriously go super hard to enjoy the heck out of them, like every single minute. Because when I look at my schedule, it's like, I'm doing something every single day. 7 days a week, I'm working. Saturdays, I work at night. Sundays, I work in the morning. And Monday through Friday, for the most part, I'm working pretty heavily with the exception of Friday because I'm going to the mosque. So I cut off, like late morning into early afternoon. But if you think about it, 7 days a week, I got something going on. So I was like, it's just different things for different people. And you just got to find that thing for you. So for me, it's been a lot of those things like, it don't take a lot to satisfy me, man. And I'm grateful with that.
Do you find, well, clearly things is different because now you have an amazing child and things like that. But before the kid, was there a certain, were you happy with your work-life balance? And were there certain things that stood out to you that's like, okay, I feel whole with this? Like I said, before child days.
Yeah, no, I think what I realized about, before, let's just call it super family mode, because I want this to be relatable to everyone listening and not just centered around children. I think the problem with work-life balance is that before I had other things to look forward to, I filled up my whole day with work so that I don't have to pay attention to the fact that there are other things that are important in life in general, and I'm just ignoring them right now. So I wasn't making my health the top priority. Like I've always been a fitness and health guy just because I'm an athlete at heart. Like I've been playing baseball since I was 10 years old all the way into college. So that kind of molded me to be around health and wellness. But I can't tell you that I always paid attention to my spiritual life, maybe to the greatest extent, or that I took care of my relationships to the best extent, or that I think about mental health and the functionality of my brain to the extent that I do now. But that's because I just thought working would be the answer to all problems. Mm-hmm. And then you do that for so long until you realize like, okay, yeah, you could be, and he said it on one of the calls during the challenge this week. He said, you could be up financially or professionally in your life, but you could be down in every other category and you won't feel the winds of what you're producing in those areas. So I think before that, like I actually have achieved balance by adding more to my plate. And I know that might sound crazy to some, but it's because before this, all I thought about, all I focused on was work. Mm-hmm. And so there's only so much that you can do when that is your primary focus. I think in the beginning, let's say you're entering a new career, a new craft, you're trying to build your brand, you're working on your business, you're trying to develop a side hustle, you're trying to go to the next level in your career, whatever the case may be, early on, it is so helpful that you dedicate all of your time, heck, 60, 70, 80 hours. It's so new that you need the overload of time to help you make up for the gap in talent, in experience, in confidence, in connections, in, a lot of different things that are required to build a successful career. So once you put in that time and you get to your absolute best, you then start to actually dwindle. Like you're not as good anymore putting in all this time, or you're not getting better at the same rate, because it's like you've already been exposed to everything. So what makes it different? The opportunity to take a weekend and travel, take a minute to watch something on Netflix and learn what happened in other industries or other successful stories, how you can seek some inspiration or even some strategy, and how that can make you think about your work a little bit differently. So in the beginning, yeah, you need that just focus. But at some point you reach a layer in your development where you don't get the same bang for your buck anymore until you start becoming more well-rounded and uniquely positioning these experiences to go look after other things that are meaningful in life. And you'll realize that an interesting thing happens. You start to develop in your career at a rate similar to or even faster than when you were going all in. Like, it's not like the growth stops because you start focusing on, oh, okay, I have a significant other now and I want to have children, or heck, I want to be just me for forever. I'm not necessarily, that's not my meaning of happiness through family, wife and children, or husband, whatever. But maybe it's travel. It could be whatever it is for you. The thing is, it's just so interesting how those experiences start to make you more well-rounded if you allow them. I think some people get those things, but they don't allow them. It's like I used to have a saying that I remember having friends who, there's one person in particular, I remember I worked with him for an event we had out in Vegas. And on the whole car ride there, he was like, man, my son is my why. Like, you know how he talks about the why? Yeah, my son is my why. This is my why, my why, my why. And it was all about, his child. And then when we got to the event, some things start to happen, and the conversation became more of the shortage of success or the why things are not happening. And then the answer was, in response to that, was, yeah, it's just because my son. So to me, I was like, yo, but it sounds like you're using your why as your excuse. You're not, like your why is supposed to propel you. Your why is not supposed to become your crutch or the reason for why you can't do the things that you want to do. So that's why I say, if you allow it, these other things that seem so difficult can actually be super helpful. And look, at the end of the day, I've only been married for going on 3 years and I have a baby that's 11 months. So am I like a super duper expert at the concept of the topic of work-life balance, doing it for 30, 40, 50 years? No, but I am just sharing what's been happening in my life, as I really allow these changes to make me better and not allow the change to be something that goes against my nature, because the way I am, I don't really like change. Like, it should, if I could have it my way, I want things to be as consistent and as stable as possible. But I'm now realizing, like, yo, that's not really life. Like, that's not the reality of the world. Things are going to change. They have to change. And you just have to be good at adapting, with the times.
So good.
Yeah.
Is there, going back to, shout out to Isaiah for the super chat.
Always showing love too, man.
Oh, shout out to Isaiah. So, you know how there's always these like productivity frameworks that will allow you to get your time back, right? What have been some that has helped you with the balance, if any, or do you have your own that is like, that you're trying out right now? Like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I know you mentioned, I don't know if it was on the podcast or if it was just one of our conversations as far as the sprints, right? When you were dealing with the flight assessment, you realized how dope they were. What kind of framework helps you with your balance?
Yeah. So the sprint, and by the way, I appreciate the question, but I definitely want you to share your take equally as much on these concepts, because I know you have a pretty unique perspective on all of these topics. But I think the productivity frameworks for me are definitely the sprint that you mentioned, but the sprint primarily around major projects. So it's not just something that I would run all the time or anytime, but I will intentionally increase connection and the amount of time that I work on something around major projects, because I feel like when you just dedicate your energy with intentionality all the time, you end up making a lot more progress in a shorter period versus the sporadic, once a week, once every other week, once a month for some things. It's like that stuff is cool, but that's just really maintenance mode. So when it comes down to really launching something significant, or you really want to get something complete or off the ground, you have to put more time under pressure towards that thing that you want to do. So that's where I've utilized the sprints. Right. So, usually that looks like anywhere from 3 to 5 meetings a week. And they're not meetings that are running, several hours. Some of them could be 20 minutes. Some of them could be 45, maximum an hour. But we really help to get a lot of stuff out of the way in a short period of time, utilizing the sprint. So that's been a game changer for me on that. And then, of course, what I call that sweet spot of like a 4-hour workday. And shout out to Danny, who has definitely been listening to some of these episodes, because I see the questions in the comments here. But that 4-hour work pocket is super ideal. Unfortunately, right now, I probably have a lot on my plate. And so I'm not just doing 4 hours. I'm probably doing 2 4-hour sessions instead of just, one, which I would prefer, believe it or not. So, that's kind of where it's at with what's working right now, because that has shifted in the last 6 weeks or so.
Oh, that's recent.
Yeah. So,
Okay, you don't like it. He's like,
no.
yeah.
No. I'm saying no. It's I definitely like it. I'm just saying the adjustments of what productivity looks like. Going back to this idea of being flexible. Sometimes you might have something that worked great for you, and then you enter a different season where that approach is just not going to be the same. So, like for me now, the approach that is working is more that like it's an approach of urgency is working way better than the more stable, calm, let's just take our time with everything. That's just not what's working for me right now. What's working for me right now is trying to assess the situation and deploy resources as quickly as I can. So if I take, my sweet time to respond, especially if I'm able, like there are times, and you got to think about it like this, there are times where some of us, we have the ability to respond, whether that's to an email, a text message, a phone call, an item on our to-do list. We have the ability to respond, but we choose not to. We procrastinate, we delay, right? Then there are other times where you don't have the ability to respond, and so you're forced to wait, and that's when things pack up. So now, if I'm able, I respond as quickly as I possibly can. I don't want to allow too much time. As a matter of fact, and I know this may sound crazy, and I'm actually thinking about it now through the lens of productivity, as you mentioned. We had a second phone at the house. We had a 13 Pro Max that was old. It broke because it fell and the cameras and Face ID for some reason stopped working. Everything else on the phone works perfectly. The screen is not cracked. Everything works. Literally, the Face ID and the camera just stopped working out of nowhere. So we got new phones, but kept this phone. So the other day I was like, you know what? I'm going to back up that phone, like pretty much transfer all my data onto that phone. And I'm going to use both phones while I'm in the house or while I'm working, because one could be via Wi-Fi and the other I can use for phone calls and everything else. And believe it or not, from a responsibility standpoint, like the ability to respond rather quickly, having two phones is helping, right? So like, I just thought of it like right now. I mean, yeah, it's for some weird reason, it keeps messages and things to get back to people. It's keeping it a little bit more in front of me. So I'm able to do that a little bit better with two phones.
Come on, two phones.
Cue, cue,
Kevin
cue
Gates.
the song. Cue the song.
Right. I got two
Yeah, cue the
phones.
song.
Shout out to Janita, the content alchemist, Rogers Entertainment, and Super Strong Fire for the super stickers in the super chat. We appreciate the support. Okay, so
dope.
let me go in.
Come on now. Come on.
I wanted to pick your brain on certain things.
No, you.
Can we do that?
No,
Yeah.
I'm not mad at it. I'm saying come on, as in I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
Oh, I was like,
That's the state of
yeah.
mind. Come on. Yeah.
So for me, I guess I've been through a lot of different trying to figure this situation out in this year because of trying to get to whole new levels personally, work wise. The importance for me is not necessarily work-life balance per se. It is more of finding time to think. I put on threads not too long ago where I said thoughts are powerful. Thoughts create the vision create the ideas create the momentum, and the momentum creates the plan, right? But it all starts with thoughts. And I realized that regardless if I find the balance of, whether working only for 4 hours or spending this amount of time with my personal side and relationship side, have I really spent time to think so I could properly move on both, right? And the type of person that I am, I've now dedicated. What I used to do was like I always learn something new every day. That's always in my thing, and especially this year, it's learn something new and document it, right? For some reason, I thought that was my thinking spot. Like, oh, when I learn something new, it will allow me to consume things that will allow me to think of new things, right? Mm-hmm. And really, that wasn't the case. So now, what I'm prioritizing on is a think hour. Not think 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30. It's like a think hour. I literally have a think hour after this, right? Because it will allow me to half and half it. It will allow me to think 30 minutes on personal work, what are goals, what are trying to do, that whole nine. And then it will allow me to think of work. So I can build the ideas which will give me the momentum to then move correctly. Where I would just move, I would just work, and then I just didn't have time for anything. Or I would solely concentrate on, my mental strength, solely concentrate on relationships, and so it would kind of, it just wasn't necessarily balanced. Now, if I spend the time to just think about what direction I'm trying to go, the vision that I'm really trying to do, it allows me to maneuver correctly. So that's been a really big focus for me, where, of course, I'm still on the trying to figure out the 4-hour day. The problem with me is that I honestly love what I do, and I don't really necessarily consider it as work. And so I dedicate the 4 hours, but I tend to go a little bit over, and I excuse it with like, oh, it's just this. So I got to get a little bit more disciplined with that. But I think I would say 2 weeks, past 2 weeks, creating like a think hour has really helped me switch up what I'm doing with the work-life balance.
Nice. Nice. Tony asked, is that daily, weekly? How often do you do the think hour?
Oh, it's a daily thing. It's a daily thing for me. Just because of how many like ideas I get on a regular, me spending time allowing that hour to even just prioritize or just even put aside some of those ideas. Like, nah, that ain't today. That ain't even this week. Let's put it in the next week situation, and creating a system, the idea vault where the ideas will go into this Notion page and kind of could arrange it with that board view of like, this is the now, this is the next week, this is just in the future, or this is a hell no, we ain't doing this. Why'd you even think that?
Yeah. Is there a framework for the thinking hour? I mean, you kind of spoke to it a little bit about the now, future. Absolutely not. Is there, like a framework or a breakdown of how someone who's listening to this and they're saying, you know what, I need to probably incorporate a think hour into my days or my week or something like that. What should they do within that hour to help them really gain that clarity?
Not necessarily a super framework, but the being sure that think about everything that's happening important in your life, right? So for me, it's work, right? And it's life, right? And I just associate life with two things, my mental and my relationship, because everything else is, once those two are great, everything else is fine, right? So, and that includes health and all that, but everybody knows when it comes to the health side, I just accepted that I'm chubby and we're just moving it on this year. Sorry. So, I'm so much happier when it's that way. So, but I have it in that kind of time frame. I have a timer for 30 minutes with one, 30 minutes with the other, and I just allow things to flow. Because if I have it too structured, then it could create a ceiling for some of the ideas, right? I just want to be like, all right, we're talking about work. Get in work mode, but just think of what could possibly happen. What is with no limits, with no money problems, no personnel problems, no restrictions in any way, shape, or form. What are some ideas when it comes to this, when it comes to that, when it comes to that, right? When it comes to, mental health, when it comes to just who you are, what, with no limitations, what are some ideas that pop up in your head, for the same reason of why I've got an interior designer to work downstairs, that just came from like an idea, right? From a personal side, which then kind of flips into the work side, because I always be like, oh, I can make content around here, but that's just part of my life, right? Then just relationship is just like, okay, where are we trying to go? What are we trying to do? No limitations, no money problems, boom, boom, boom. What's all that? And so that's kind of my loose framework, because I just want no ceilings in this hour.
I love that. Yeah, that's a good setup.
Like totally, I encompass Trello boards to pour out the thoughts and visions, then prioritize as needed. Yeah, Notion has that kind of like board vibe, like Trello has too. I live off everything off of Notion, regardless if it looks pretty or not. Some of the pages are just super bland, but they're super useful. I was watching a video that was like, oh, all these Notion people talk about aesthetics, but don't use the pages correctly. It's like, yo, do this, make the page purposeful. I was like, oh, that's true. And so that's just kind of how I'm moving. It's like, trying to avoid, trying to avoid just working or just being, right? My purpose this year is to really let out all the ideas that I have and see just what works. See if it just works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I learned from it, right? I go back to my thinking hour, kind of assess it a little bit. There is an assessing part. I will say that. There is like, look at what happened. What can we change? What new ideas can we get from this particular lesson? So we, I do that, and just kind of build off of, because I believe when you have an idea and some people say an L, I'm cool with that. But when you look at the lesson that comes from it, you just build off of the original idea. You don't go to the left, to the right, come up with a whole brand new idea. You just build off of the foundation. You just didn't get it right. So everything's been moving cool with that framework.
Yeah. Hey, I'd be curious to know what some of you who are tuned in, what kind of questions you have, what kind of ideas or even best practices, quite honestly, that you have as it relates to this life-work balance concept, because I do think that we all have some pretty unique ways of dealing with this interesting challenge that life throws at us. But in the meantime, I do next want to ask you, how do you navigate people who just don't understand? Because when I think about life work balance, we can find a system that is phenomenal for us, but there are still people who don't understand. In all transparency, to a certain extent, the conversation I had with my mom, who is one of my best friends in the world, really is about, let me help you understand my system a little bit, because I think you're thinking one thing and it's not that. So that just made it a little bit top of mind for me. How do you communicate, or how do you just work with people who don't understand?
So first off, shout out to Tony. You see the super chat. Y'all. Oh, well, super sticker. My apologies. Super sticker. Y'all showing out this today with this conversation. So yeah. We appreciate that. We super appreciate that. So as far as the people who don't understand, here's the thing. I used to get very frustrated about it, right? I used to get very, very frustrated. Now I go more on, it's not your responsibility or my responsibility to make sure you understand. If you are really trying to understand, if you're really trying to, and meaning asking true questions, not, this is not going to work. I don't get it. Not in a shutdown situation. Because if you're shutting it down, or you're like, I don't get it, and that's it, that's not inviting me to explain it to you. So I'm not going to anymore, right? It's not everything you're going to understand, and that's okay. Like, I've come to that realization, not everything I'm going to understand, but it's not meant for me to understand, and I have to be okay with that. For those things that is meant for me to understand, I'm going to ask questions and things like that. But if it's not meant for me to understand, cool. So I don't really focus on trying to make people understand some of the things that I do, some of the results that happen, unless they have a genuine desire to understand. And there's a few who do have that natural desire to understand it. But I can't make everybody understand. I have to move as an example as far as the things that I believe in, and eventually you're going to get it, right? And that's primary, and people can understand this with when you make a certain career change and your parents are looking at you crazy, Like, what are you doing?
Right, right.
And regardless of what you will say, they will not understand. They will support, hopefully, they will support, but they will never understand until you have shown some type of results or they see the fruit of your labor and they're like, okay, I still don't get it, but I'm understanding a little bit more. I still don't know what you do. Like, shout out to my mom. She's like, I still really don't know what you do, but I'm fully supported because you are happy. I mean, like, you're happy, you're not wanting for anything, and that's all I ever wanted in life. That you don't want for nothing, right? So I spend my energy on making sure that eventually down the line they will want to understand, but in the meantime, I'm not going to force you to understand.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. It's yeah, I'm realizing the people, what makes the work-life balance really the a difficult thing to carry out is the expectations of other people of you, when it comes to how much time to spend or things of that nature. So I have been in probably I've done the most listening I've ever done, either in a really long time or what feels like a really long time, because I realized that I if I'm not very careful, I could not hear what people really mean to say, because most people, uh, they're not, either intentionally or unintentionally, they don't really communicate flat out what exactly they want to say. They will go in circles and in circles and in circles, and every circle they're dropping a hint, so it's not even super clear. At least for me, I've just never been the type to really get crystal clear on what somebody's saying if they don't tell it to me flat out. So I've been more focused on really listening to what people are saying so that I can understand and help to connect the dots. Now, the second thing I've done is I have, I don't want to call it like different levels on relationships, but I have accepted the reality that not everyone is family. Not everyone is your mom or, whatever it is. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think you can have different types of families. You can have a work family, a home family, real family, whatever, an extended family. But to think that everyone is at the same exact level with you, I think that also creates unnecessary challenges, because then you're expecting a certain level of commitment from them that they
Yep.
don't have to give to you, because not that they don't have to give it like they're bad people. They just have to give it to other people. Like, they have to give it to their real family and loved ones. So they can't commit that same time back to you. So before, I used to feel like, man, well, that's not mutual or whatever the case may be. And it was a lot of self, I guess, self-depreciated, outcomes from these results. From these relationships. So that's why I was like, yeah, no, I gotta really start separating the levels and the tiers so that I don't mismanage my expectations or miscommunicate, expectations to somebody. Like, I might say something where someone feels like, oh, this automatically means this kind of expectation. So I've realized that that's something to, be careful about, just so that it helps with the balance long term.
That's good. Last question. Last question that I have
Yeah.
for you. Um, what is something you want to experiment, right? When it comes to, well, how about this? No, still on that. What do you want to experiment when it comes to work-life balance? But experiment as far as, are you leaning more towards the work side or the life side of it?
Yeah. Yeah. If I had to be honest, like, what's taking maybe more priority right now, I would say it's work. If I had to be honest, but family is so important that I sacrifice a lot of other things just to keep it, like I'm talking about like a 0.001% difference. Like if work is, up, it's just up by like a small margin, but I'm so dedicated to both. So I think what ends up taking other sacrifices are, personal relationships or other areas that don't necessarily have that same time left over for because of that. But from an experimenting standpoint, I mean, I can't call anything off the bat, to be honest with you. Like just something in a close proximity. One of the things I said was last year I tried and experienced what it's like to travel a lot with the baby. And so this year we want to experiment with the polar opposite, not doing any travel, keeping our butts at home. And that's going to be interesting because the travel, at least for me last year, what it did was an opportunity to break away from the same mundane routine. And now here I am dedicating myself to it. But I just think I'm at a stage that I want to prioritize certain goals. And I don't know that I'll be able to achieve those goals if I'm constantly on the road or traveling. And then the most difficult part about challenging, and you've spoken to it sometimes too, is not so much to travel, it's about the reconnecting when you get back home.
Yes.
It's like, it's getting acclimated back into the routine. Traveling could be cool. You go, you got to do what you got to do. That's fine. It works great. And then you come back home and it's like, dang, here, now I have to miss another day to possibly 3 days, depending on the length of the trip, just to get things back acclimated to where they were before. So that's the part that I'm like, you know what? Maybe not so much an experiment, somewhat of a sacrifice, but I think it'll be worth it for just where we're at.
Okay. Yeah.
Anything for you?
I'm still experimenting this time blocking situation. I got a new app. It's called Amy, right? It's called Amy, and it's like a calendar but to-do list situation as well. And it promoted AI time blocking, but I guess it's super new, so they still have a few kinks. But the app is pretty dope that you could just drag it and it works in that kind of sense. You put your to-do list, it tags it, it changes its colors, that whole nine. What I found with Notion is that you had to manually put the time thing, and then you can switch it around. It was just a lot. So I'm still experimenting with time blocking. Clearly, I'm experimenting with a workflow inside of Vision Pro, which is working out really dope. And I don't know, for some reason, I feel so accomplished when I do something in there, because I feel like not many people have done that. So it's like, ooh, I finished editing this inside of Vision Pro. Not many people could say they did that. I posted this. It's really cool. So I'm experimenting with those two things.
I love that. Yeah, no, you are one of the early adopters that I know in life. Like, the early adopters are those people who are always like, hey, I don't know, I'm gonna try it though, and you give it like an honest, fair shot. Typically I'm a later adopter. I've gotten better in some places, but I wasn't early on the Vision Pros. It's funny, I saw a video of someone who had, I guess there's a headset that it wraps around your mouth and it connects to the earbuds above your head. So yeah, I gotta find it on my, I don't know where I saw it, but I gotta find it and send it to you. But it's a headset that has that look, and they paired it with the Vision Pros. And then literally when like they show how the person looks, and I'm like, yo, that's crazy. You look like a superhero. And I'm thinking about, for some reason, it just gave me the flashback of like, yo, we used to watch movies and cartoons with people who look like that. Now you can actually look like that in real life. So all that to say, yeah, I'm not early on the Vision Pros yet, but I do appreciate Nyx for experimenting and sharing all her takeaways and lessons with it.
Yep. tomorrow, my first 48 inside a Vision Pro videos is coming out on my personal channel. So if you're not subscribed over there, it's just Nicky Saunders. Go over there. It's going to be a vibe. Shout out to Isaiah, who we're experimenting with green screen recording, all that great stuff.
Great.
So it should be a vibe. I already got the thumbnail. The thumbnail looks great. It's literally called My First 48, like the show. It's super dope. So go check that out, people. Of course, check out this week's podcast, especially for those people who are in that phase of how do I get the brand awareness, but also how do I monetize? What is the balance of both? How do I leverage both? We have really good conversations, especially at the end. So go check that out. And then seriously, shout out to everybody who gave us super chat. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is probably our lowest numbers that we've gotten on a live, but the biggest support that we've gotten. And so it is amazing what you guys are doing in the chat and those people who are watching live. If you're watching this replay, you can do the same thing with super thanks. So we appreciate that as well. And I'll make sure you get shouted out in the next live. If you really want to support, really want to support, Patreon, right? I'll drop that link in the chat. Patreon.com/Nicky and Moose. Okay, $4 a month for just to get inside of Patreon and see our after show. That's where all the we kind of chill back and have real honest conversations. There's business therapy, there's content therapy, there's just life therapy that happens in those conversations. We answer questions. So patreon.com if you really support the podcast. And so we appreciate that. Moose, my mom already texted me. This is the most open you have been probably since that episode that we did of just you, and it is definitely appreciated.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, Mom. Mama Nix, yeah. Mad love to Mama Nix.
You know, my mom's always gonna give her 2 cents. She gave it early. She's like, hold on,
I love it.
Most,
I'm gonna deliver this one early.
Really? Yo, what's up? This is great. I like this side of him. He need to talk more. You feel me? Yo, look, Janita comes through again. Listen, thank you, everybody. We are out. We appreciate you, love you, and you know what we're gonna say.
Peace, y'all.